Final scores from Tannadice: Celtic 5, Dundee United 0, and Celtic are once again champions of Scotland. The 4 in a row champions of Scotland, lifting the title for the 55th time in 138 years of Celtic history. Another brilliant day at Tannadice, a place, Greg, where Celtic have lifted the title a few times in recent memories. I'm joined here on the Final Whistle show by Greg Harvey, all the way from Canada. Greg, your initial response to yesterday's big win?
Yeah, great day. Probably like most, maybe feeling a wee bit tender this morning after celebrating last night, but really good result. Once we get the goal, we just kind of kicked on. Really competent performance and worthy of the occasion, to be honest. Only slight downside, the injury to Jota, which I'm sure we'll cover. And I thought some really, really interesting post-match comments by Brendan Rodgers, which we'll maybe cover later in the piece. But fantastic result, fantastic scoreline. So, yeah, it was a great day.
Yeah, you'll have heard the headlines at the top of the piece there. You know, Celtic's 55th league title, 4 in a row. It's their 13th title in 14 seasons. The 120th trophy overall in Celtic history, and loads more accolades. We'll get to James Forrest a wee bit later on. We'll get to the manager, but you'll have heard reports, Greg. It's the first time we've been back on in a few weeks. You'll have heard reports during the week back here in Scotland. Obviously, you're in Canada, talking about this tedious title of Celtic's, this boring procession to the title. You were up, I think, 8:30 kick-off your time out there in Canada. I'm sure it felt in no way boring in your part of the world. It certainly didn't feel boring over here.
No, it's just I think that's where Rodgers' comments come, don't they? There was a wee bit of anger in his comments. I think he was measured with it, but I think he didn't miss. Some of the journalism is just so shoddy, so dross, and to say that it's going to be a tedious treble, they're so hard to do. You can have an off game, like we look at St Johnstone a few weeks ago. You drop points there. It can easily happen at some stage in a League Cup or a Scottish Cup. So to be on the verge of churning out another treble is just incredible. And when you look at the difference in league points as well, it's incredible what Celtic are doing. They're just an absolute machine just now. But if that's tedious, then so be it. It's absolutely ridiculous journalism that's came out during the week, and it stinks of sour grapes, doesn't it, Tino?
It really does. And, you know, whether it's Brendan Rodgers, I heard Kasper Schmeichel speaking. Obviously, he's still injured for now, and hopefully he'll make a return before the end of the season. But he was talking about it. He's a guy that's played at the very top level, you know, down in the English Premier League, and he's won that, and he's won the FA Cup, and he's got, I don't know, something close to 120 caps for Denmark. And he's saying this club is huge, and what they achieve is just phenomenal. The consistency, the need to win every game of football is a unique thing. And most footballers across the globe won't ever experience that. And now we can obviously debate and discuss the level Celtic are at and the competition or lack of at times here in Scotland. But the line was used that Celtic can only beat what's in front of them. Yesterday's challenge was Dundee United. On another day, it's Bayern Munich and everything else in between. And the consistency these players have shown, it just shows you just how crazy things are here at times. We lost a game a few weeks back to St Johnstone, and it was like the end of the world. We're now sitting here. I've rhymed off the accolades. We're going for a treble. But that's just life in Scotland, or more specifically, life at Celtic. And real credit to the players for the mental resilience for doing what they continue to do season after season after season.
I thought it was really interesting with Kasper Schmeichel as well, because, as you say, he's played at the very top level, international goalkeeper, but he was absolutely buzzing yesterday. And you know, you've played football. Sometimes when you're out injured, you don't feel as much a part of it. But I thought he seemed very much a part of it. He was absolutely delighted. The only reason I felt sorry for him because he couldn't get in the picture at the end because he had to do the post-match. And he was kind of almost saying to Callum McGregor, can we go back and do the picture again? I think you've seen that at the end of the highlights. But yeah, it just shows you he's a perfect example of that, of how much it means to the players and the levels you've got to be at Celtic. And he covered that really, really competently in his post-match. I thought he spoke very well. But it was notable how buzzing he was at the fact he'd won another Premiership medal. So yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, clearly means a lot to him and all his teammates. Very appropriate comment coming in here from San Fran Celtic, who says Mundane Monday Club beckons. I think Greg here's hoping it's Mundane Sunday Club. He's looking for a top up, but we'll see how it goes. Further comments, let me see.
I think I can.
Who have we got? San Fran Celtics here, obviously. Jim Hunter, Mark Gordon, great to see Tommy Dawson here. Jim Hunter saying, is this where the party's at? I think the party was at Greg's yesterday. Jim, you're a bit too late for that one, but loads going on. Let us know. We'll be here for about half an hour this afternoon. Let us know any comments, questions, statements, anything at all Celtic related, and we'll do our very best to cover that. Greg, loads of different things, loads of different narratives going on, but let's try best we can to, at least for a short time, focus on the game itself. You're up against a Dundee United side, a decent Dundee United side under Jim Goodwin themselves, targeting third place in the table. Hibs and Aberdeen are obviously there or thereabouts, and that's the challenge for Jim Goodwin. A side who just got promoted last season, actually. They're doing particularly well, so we knew it wasn't going to be easy. Myself and Paddy done the pre-match woefully wrong in our predictions. Both went for 2-1, citing the fact that it might be a slightly anxious game, a slightly cagey game. But actually, history tells us otherwise, or at least Brendan Rodgers' history. He's now played or managed 4 title clinchers for Celtic during his 2 spells. And in each of the 3 games before yesterday, he'd won them all 5-0. We beat Hearts 5-0 to lift the title in 2016-17. That was at Tynecastle. We then beat Rangers at Celtic Park the following season. We beat Kelly 5-0 towards the tail end of last season to lift the title. And obviously, yesterday we get the very same scoreline. The start of the game was fairly cagey, both sides feeling each other out. But you made the point, Greg, before we came on here. Once Celtic scored, all bets were off, weren't they?
Yeah, it was. We were actually under the cosh for the first 15 minutes. I thought we kind of struggled to get our own half. Credit to Dundee United, but we just the ball wasn't sticking. And actually, again, we'll probably cover this later, but with Maida being in that position, that just doesn't make the ball stick as well. And I just felt it kept on coming back at us, and we couldn't really get a grip of the game. Rodgers alluded to it in his post-match as well, saying he was actually happy with the first 15 minutes, which I thought was quite strange. But then kind of backed up by saying, I wanted us to stand up and be counted in the first 15 minutes and defend our box, which we did. And I think once the goal goes in, I think Jota's probably going to put it in anyway. But once the goal goes in, everybody relaxes and kind of kicks on. But yeah, I thought Dundee United were pretty good for the first 15, 20 minutes, tried to stick with it. But once the goal went in, everything, the whole dynamic of the game changed. And actually, when Jota went off and Idah came on, the dynamic changed even more. It gave us a focal point up front, and it changed the whole structure for me. I thought he maybe should have started, to be honest. But I'm glad for Dundee United just separately, because I like Jim Goodwin. He had a front row seat to celebrate as well yesterday. So hopefully they can get third place. But yeah, they put up a good fight for the first 15, 20 minutes. But after that, it was kind of one-way traffic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and it was always going to be hard, for Dundee United or whoever we were up against. Celtic, I mentioned that shock defeat by St Johnstone a few weeks back. Yeah. I actually think you would never plan for defeat, but sometimes it can be a good thing just to give you a sharpener and reset what you're doing. And I think it came at an opportune time in the season. It just gave Celtic the jolt they needed. They then went and take care of Kilmarnock the following week, 5-1. St Johnstone in the Cup semi-final, 5-0 last week. And then obviously a third 5-goal performance yesterday. And yeah, when the opening goal comes in, and yeah, Jota's putting on all the pressure. I think it's Ryan Strain that diverts it. But once that comes for Celtic, it just does, it releases all sorts of tension and different things and allows us to really play our game. It is unfortunate for Jota going off, and don't really have any great reports on it just now. You'll have seen him post-match on the sticks, on the crutches, and hopefully it's nothing too serious. It did look like he jarred his knee in the turf. The hope would be that it's nothing
major. Didn't it? It looked like a really awkward fall, the way he kind of went over, and his reaction wasn't great. And even post-match, the players are talking to him and asking him, and it didn't look great to me, to be honest. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that one at all, which is pretty sad.
You're always concerned when guys get injured with nobody really around them. There was a bit of pressure by the United defender, but no great impact. So fingers crossed for Jota. Huge part of what Celtic are doing. Huge to have him back at the club, and hopefully he's back to it before too long. But it certainly, changes the dynamic of the game in general. Adam Idah at that point does come on, unexpected for him. That's 35 minutes into the game. And then Celtic really start to motor. And Nicholas Kuhn's the man that gets the next goal. It's really interesting the way it comes to be. So Idah does find himself out in the left wing with Idah back up through the middle. He does really well down the left-hand side. It's a really good move by Celtic, actually. And credit to, I think the goalie starts it. Sinasalo's quick response to roll it out to Arne Engels. Engels, clever turn in the midfield and really great long diagonal pass. Idah then gets the byline, puts it into a dangerous area with a bit of height on it. There's work to be done by Nicholas Kuhn. We've seen these kind of efforts go all over the place at different times from different players. But he's just got the savage just to divert it with his right foot. He needs to control it and just take a bit of the pace off the ball. And he does so. And he wheels away. It's 2-0 Celtic. I want to ask you about his celebration. So he goes away giving that a bit of this, bit of the chat, which to me, it looks like, people have got different theories. I think it's in response to the flack he's been getting from his own fans. And I've seen a few people up on their high horse. I tweeted at the time saying he's got every right to do that. I think he takes, Footballers are under the microscope, under the flashlight at different times. And if you can give out the flack to Nicholas Kuhn, you need to just accept it when he gives it back. I think it's a two-way street. I've got zero problems with it. And if he continues to respond by scoring doubles like he done yesterday, I'm all good with that kind of stuff.
I know I'm smiling because I had it in my notes, his celebration. He's been rotten, let's be really honest. For a couple of weeks, he's been really poor and has had absolute deserved flack. But yes, that's how you answer your critics, isn't it? By getting a couple of goals. And look, nobody's happy. I'm a huge fan. I think I said it, we done the show back in October. For me, he was at the heart of everything Celtic do positively. He's at the heart of that, but he's been super poor. I think James alluded to, has his head been turned for a summer move? I'm not sure, but I was delighted to see him back in the goals. I'm not sure about the celebration. I'm not sure, if I'm honest. Yeah, fair enough. Just put in performances and you don't get the flack. It's as simple as that, But I'll tell you what, it's a really smart finish because that's easy, one that you can sky over the bar or sclaff it. So it was a really good goal. And as you say, put in my notes as well, Sinisalo was excellent with the ball at his feet yesterday, really composed. We've not seen much of him, obviously. He's come in, but he starts to move the ball into the middle of the park. And I thought yesterday his distribution was excellent, Sinisalo, and he commanded his box very well. He's getting this VP in the team, which I think will be really vital for him. But I was impressed. And you talked about Engels there. I thought Engels was excellent yesterday. He's another guy that's a lot of chat online just now. The price tag, he doesn't do that much. He goes through the motions. See, when you watch his work rate off the ball, the angles he makes, the wee triangles he set up with Kuhn and Johnson, he was at the heart of kind of everything that went down that right-hand side. I thought he really helped Kuhn yesterday. I thought he put in a really, really clever performance. And I think next season, Engels will be absolutely massive for Celtic. Huge.
Yeah, I got to agree. I've been a big fan from the start. And I think what you can see, it's been a really good, let's call it his kind of breakthrough season. The yesterday's game was, I think it was Celtic's 52nd, maybe 53rd game of a long campaign.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
He has played a massive part, and he's part of a team that's going for a treble. He's picked up man of the matches. He's played Champions League. He's scored double figures, 10 goals. He's playing passes like that one yesterday. Arne Engels at 21 years of age is a serious talent for Celtic to have. The sky's the limit. There's huge potential. Yes, he can get better and you want him maybe to have more impact at different times. But what we've seen for the season so far has been really impressive, and I'm really excited to see what the next campaign will bring. Just in terms of Sinisalo, I think I mentioned Tommy Dawson. I think Tommy's here watching. I'm sure it was Tommy that tweeted yesterday as well. Might have been saying that he believes this was Sinisalo's best game for Celtic so far. I agree, and it sounds bizarre when it's Celtic haven't conceded any goals and not come under huge pressure at different times. But that's not the only job of a goalkeeper at Celtic. You're not just there to stop shots. You're there to be almost the first, the starting point of every attack, as was the case with that second goal that we've just described. And you've got to be so sharp and so switched on and so focused. He does make a good save actually in the second half, but he was just really lively and alert. And I think he's grown into becoming a Celtic goalkeeper. Now, Kasper Schmeichel is undoubtedly the number one at the club at this moment in time. And as I say, the hope is he's back soon. But Sinisalo, Greg, just in his short time in a Celtic jersey, he's doing all right, isn't he?
Yeah, he makes two really smart saves. I think both of them are offside, but he doesn't know that. He still has to make the save. The one in the first half's vital as well. And then the one in the second half's a really smart save. Definitely offside, the boy. But he's very composed in the ball and commands his box very well. The thing I like about him is he's not short and calling out his defenders if they make a mistake, or he's very, very vocal by the looks of it. Does Michael come straight back in? I don't know. Like, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Like, if Schmeichel comes back in, he hasn't played, and you go to the cup final, does Schmeichel come straight back in for a one-off game? I really don't know, and we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. But yeah, I've been impressed with Sinisalo since he's come in. He's looked very composed, very competent.
Yeah, and it's interesting that there's a few good comments about him. So AR has said Sinisalo, Kuhn and Engels were all good yesterday, but in saying that, so was everybody. Pat McLaughlin, good to see Pat here, saying that we should give Sinisalo the start at Ibrox next week. I'm sure he will still get the start. I'm not sure how close Kasper is. I know he took part in the warm-up yesterday. I think Sinisalo starts next week, but it's a bigger question if it's on the approach to the cup final and Kasper's fit and good to go. And Sanfran, the voice of reason, as always, says that Sinisalo is worth 30 million, at least an absolute minimum. So we'll see where it goes. Final comment, Henrik McLarsson saying quite relaxed with Sinisalo being in goals. Let's move on to the third goal, Greg, and it's Nicholas Kuhn's second. While we are talking about it, I would be interested to hear from the comments what people do think of his celebration. Are they cool with it? Are they perturbed? Is he got every right? Or anything else in between? Let us know what you think when Nicholas Kuhn or any player reacts to the recent flack they've been getting. But it's almost a carbon copy, isn't it? It's Idah down the left, gets to the byline. His pace is incredible, and all defenders will struggle with it. The United's defence certainly did. He cuts this one back on the deck. It looks like it's a ball in for Idah. Idah does try and get something on it. Doesn't quite make the connection. But the clever thing about Nicholas Kuhn here is he's coming back at the correct angle. There's a temptation, and you see it quite a lot in football, where wingers will really break their neck to get in at the back post. But actually, the job isn't to get in at the back post or to ahead of yourself. It's to take a step back at an angle so that if the cutback is missed, which it was, you've got everything in front of you. And at the end of the day, it's a very simple finish for him. But we had this chat last week. Idah scored what you could describe at Hampden last week as a tap-in. Tap-ins are only a tap-in after you do all the work before it and all the work and effort to get that high up the park. So, yeah, call it a tap-in if you want, but it's a second goal in the day for Kuhn, and it's 3-0 Celtic, and you're good to go.
It was a really, really good team goal, as you alluded to there. And with Idah been, look, I know we're going slightly off tangent here, but with Idah being back left, I just think he's so much more effective on the left-hand side. I know your brother kind of echoes the same thoughts. But with his pace, you just always get that out ball to go down the side, and I think it starts unassailable in the middle, round the side, and Adam Idah makes a nice assist, a wee tap with his big toe. But as you say, Kuhn's clever. He's got to be there. He's got to be in that position to finish it off. And he tucks it away nicely, and he probably. If Idah gets that back heel away just after it, he really should have had a hat-trick in the first half. It's slightly unlucky, but it's kind of Idah-esque, isn't it? Like, he does the hard things, and then the simple things maybe not so well sometimes. But as you say, I think you spoke about it in the show last week. You can call it a tap-in if you want, but it's the work and it's the movement that goes into before that allows that player to have a tap-in. So Kyogo done it for years for us, so and nobody complained.
Yeah, not a peep when he was doing it. A few comments on that basis. 420 somewhere. G, good to see him here. Says tap-ins only come from bursting a gut. I completely agree. I'm not sure at this point. He says that if it motivates Nicholas Kuhn, we should criticise him more. I don't know. Can we find the happy medium and maybe criticise him less? But it's a two-way street, as I say. Supporters have got every right to voice whatever their feelings are at any given time, if done respectfully. The player himself has got to respond. He did respond, and it's great to see. Henrik McLaughlin.
It was a bit of relief. Sorry, Tino, I'm coming in, but do you think it was almost a bit of a relief in his celebration as well? And the way he looked, it was almost like, thank goodness, and he almost acknowledged that it had been poor, and it was kind of like, I don't know, that I'm just thinking there, it almost looked that wee bit like he'd got the weight off his shoulders. He's got a couple of goals. Hopefully, he kicks on for the last few games. I don't know what you think about that.
First goal since Bayern Munich, so it's been a couple of months, and I think there's a whole mix of feelings there. A bit of anxiety, a bit of pressure, a bit of a release. All those things coming to the fore, and goals happen in a split second. And sometimes, for the most part, I'm all for it. Players will act impulsively, just on the spot. And if that's what he's gone with, I'm absolutely fine with it. Tommy Dawson isn't so fine with it. Tommy says if it's done towards the support, then I won't miss him if we sell him. But hopefully he'll realise we demand 100% every game. I disagree, Tommy. I think he's got every right. Some fans were so sensitive to it yesterday. The same fans have been calling him out and get him to wherever, and I'll take it to the airport myself, all that chat. You can't have it both ways. You can criticise him if you want. You need to take it in the chin and laugh it off when he responds. So I'm all good with it. And if it's what Nicholas Kuhn needs to do, every player individually, Greg, needs to motivate in different ways. Some guys are mild-mannered by personality. Some are all fiery. Some are Scott Brown. And, Nicholas Kuhn's quite a reserved personality. He's a huge talent as a footballer, but he's quite a reserved personality. And his real way of expressing is getting to the byline, setting up goals and scoring goals. And I think that's what he's done. So final word on it, Greg, but I've no problems at all, and great to see him back amongst the goals.
Yeah, hopefully it's just the confidence booster that he needs. I don't know if you've seen post-match, he was chasing Yang about with a bottle of water. Did you see that after the game? It was a bit odd, like just the two of them chasing, and he's obviously got his arm kind of in a sling. It was quite funny. It was like two wee schoolboys, but maybe that's just it. It's just the confidence. You know what it is yourself from playing the game. A couple of goals, get your confidence back and kind of kick on. And he puts himself right in the frame now, because I would have said before I wouldn't have started him at Ibrox next week, but you're kind of, after he scored 2 goals, he's going to start there, I would imagine. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's just that confidence lift. And something, I think the celebrations maybe just the more I think of it, a wee bit more relief for him than anything, and we move on. If he scores 2 goals and celebrates like that every time, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, no, if he scores 2 Ibrox and gives it all that, he can do it all day long.
Happy days.
Just on that, but we'll get to that just briefly towards the end of the recording here. But Paddy made the call. He thought we were potentially going to start with the same lineup, which, particularly in terms of the front three, would have been Idah on the left, Idah through the centre, and James Forrest on the right. But Paddy caveated that by saying there might be half an eye on Ibrox, and maybe Jota and Kuhn come back in with that in mind. It's exactly what played out. That was a suggestion. It's exactly what played out. And it would look likely that Jota won't now make that game. But Nicholas Kuhn is back in the driving seat. One of the best players in the country on his day. He now finds himself back in form. So good to see. I did spot him when he was chasing about Yang. I was worried sick. Obviously, I need to make sure that Yang is okay for the run-in, and certainly for the cup final. Tommy makes a point that he misses Yang. Don't we all, Tommy? And hopefully he's not too far away. He's out the sling. He obviously had a sling on for the last couple of weeks. He seems fine, and it was good to see him and Kuhn having a wee laugh.
I can't believe he's not even in the squad and he's still getting airtime, Tino. You need to honestly get over this whole Yang thing. It's ridiculous.
That's it. Listen, you know what you signed up for when you come on the Celtic Exchange. There will always be Yang chat. Second half, Greg, so no changes at half-time, and Celtic come out and pick up exactly where they left off. Idah, as I say, a replacement on the day for Jota. He gets his first goal of the afternoon, and again, it's a really well-worked move. It's Nicholas Kuhn on the right-hand side, playing that pass, which has kind of become a bit of a signature pass, with the outside of his left boot, curling into the path for the onrush and the undercutting Alistair Johnston. It's a run he's made time after time this season. He gets the byline and just lifts it, just puts air on it that the goalie can't get anywhere near. And Idah comes in, crashing header, downward header, textbook into the back of the net. And a real reward for a player who himself, like Nicholas Kuhn, has come in for a bit of flack.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's got loads of ability. Again, I think he's a confidence player. And again, just listening to him after the game yesterday, it was quite unusual because he selfishly spoke about himself quite a lot. Usually players will talk about the team, but he was very much, it's my goals. It's been this season that I've scored X amount of goals in this amount of minutes. He was kind of talking himself up, and I think he is a confidence player. But it's what we need. He kind of stays between the posts. He links the game up, coming deep. Sometimes it allows runners to go off him, like you seen last week with Callum McGregor. But yeah, I was delighted to see him getting his goal. I'd also note as well that the fall off of Alistair Johnston in relation to when Kuhn was playing really poorly kind of correlates. And I thought when Kuhn was good yesterday, Alistair Johnston really feeds off that and allows him to get into good positions, and it's a really smart cross. But I like that, and I was really chuffed to see him getting his goal. And it's a decent finish as well.
Yeah, he's very much a traditional number 9 in an era of modern football where teams are less and less playing with that type of player. It's all about false nines and your wide players, and Rodgers is big on his wide players and midfielders getting goals. But for me, there's always a case for a number 9, a focal point in your attack. And I'm glad to see Idah. His goal record stacks up, in terms of starts versus coming off the bench. The returns are there. That was his 17th goal of the campaign. There's still 5 games to go. There's every chance he crosses the 20 goal mark, and that's a pretty respectable return for any striker at any level.
Yeah, you think he's going to get a run now? I would imagine in that position, as you say, if he gets that return, it's a decent return, isn't it? Considering he's not starting all the time, and Maida's been just ahead of him. So yeah, I think, as I say, just fitness and confidence for me is key to him having a good season. But I think with Engels as well, he's going to have a big season next year, and I think you need to. I think we'll bring in a striker in the summer, but you talked about it in the show last week. He's got to go and compete with that striker that's going to come in for the starting spot, and I actually think that will help kick him on a little bit, a bit of focus. So we'll see what happens, but I do like him, and I hope he does get a run till the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think Idah or any player in any position at Celtic know that, given the size of club and the type of club we are, there will always be new players coming in trying to take your jersey, and you can respond in one or two ways. You can take the huff and let that affect you negatively, or you can respond and say, I'll show this guy, whoever he may be, however much he costs, I'm the man in the jersey right now, and I'm going to fight tooth and nail to keep it. And I think Idah will respond in such a way. He'll know there's a striker coming in, and it's up to him to respond to that. And I think we'll see a strong end to the campaign from him, and let's see where he goes from the summer and beyond. He obviously gets his second goal of the day. We'll cover it quickly. It's a driving run, a really strong driving run from Callum McGregor in the midfield. Slips it into Idah. I'll concede, I think the goalie should do better. I was surprised to see it hit the back of the net, but he takes it early, and sometimes these finishes can catch goalies a wee bit flat-footed. and it's his second goal of the game, and we're good to go. As covered, that's him on 17 goals for the season.
Yeah.
The stat very quickly for Nicholas Kuhn is 20 goals for the season plus 14 assists, so 34 goal contributions, a massive part of the campaign. Greg, a quick word for Callum McGregor. I watched closely and listened closely to all his comments pre-match over the last couple of days, and certainly his interviews post-match. He's such an effective, driven leader for Celtic, and there's a bit of chat that he's well aware that he's, I don't know, is it dismissive to say he's in the twilight years, but he's certainly in the latter part of his career, and this drives him on, not knowing that any given title, any given cup, league, whatever, could potentially be his last, and I think that's what inspires him and keeps him going, and he's just such a good leader for Celtic, and who knew that he would go on and be every bit as effective, if not more effective in different ways than Scott Brown. Your thoughts on the captain?
Just quickly, just with Idah thing, just to finalise that, he took his shot early, and I think that's why it went in. I think it caught the goalkeeper just off guard a little bit. Callum McGregor, oh my goodness, I've got the kind of fear of what comes next and who replaces him, because when he does not play, Celtic are we've seen it before, the Rangers game, they're just a different team altogether. He's just incredible. See the way he speaks and his interviews and the way he handles himself. I did worry after Scott Brown. I just never seen Callum McGregor being the captain he is now. For me, he's better than Scott Brown. And that might be controversial and people might disagree with that. But for me, as a player, person, nothing against Scott Brown. Loved him. But for me, Callum McGregor, just incredible person. Carries himself very well. But what a fantastic footballer. Clever footballer. Controls the tempo of games. He's passing. Rodgers spoke about it post-match how they've tried to get him further up the pitch and get more goals into his game, which he's done. Just incredible. Weirdly, I thought he was really poor for the first 15, 20 minutes yesterday. I thought he was rotten. And then he kind of came into the game. I don't know if that was slight nerves of just understanding the magnitude of where he was at and within touching distance of another league trophy. But he's just incredible. You run out of superlatives for him. He's been an incredible captain for us. And he is entering the twilight. I think that's absolutely spot on term to use. I think he's still got another good couple of years in him. But as you've spoken about in the shows the last couple of weeks, you really need to find somebody in the summer who's going to come in and kind of mould them to take over from Callum McGregor in the years to come. But he's still got a huge role. He's a bit like James Forrest in the dressing room as well. Even once he maybe gets a slightly older, less match time, still having him about the dressing room will be really important for Celtic. But yeah, I get emotional when I think of Callum McGregor not being there, because he's been an incredible servant to the club.
Yeah, I'll give you a minute or two to compose yourself as we move seamlessly on to the next section. You mentioned the man of the moment, James Forrest, just there. And we'll cover a lot more of this. We've got the weekly show coming up tomorrow, where we'll catch a lot of the detail and a lot of the kind of headline stuff. But James Forrest, wow. He is now, it's incredible to say it, but he is now the record holder. He's picked up more medals than any other player in Celtic history. I think it's 138 years of Celtic history. And the win yesterday takes him one above Bobby Lennox. So they were both tied on 25. Bobby's obviously got the European Cup in his back pocket as well, or the European Cup medal. But James Forrest is now out there on his own on 26 medals. It's a huge, huge achievement. And Forrest himself, speaking post-match, said he was actually getting quite emotional. The fans were singing his name. They were desperate. We were all desperate for him to see him get a goal in the day. But we'll catch that side of it later. But he was talking about the fact that he's met Bobby Lennox a number of times over the years. They're both Ayrshire boys. James is Prestwick, Bobby Lennox is Saltcoats. And he's hoping to go and visit him and his family in the coming days. And that in itself would be a special moment. And you've got to cherish these guys, Greg. James Forrest is the current modern hero. But it's a perfect moment to reflect on guys like Bobby Lennox and others like him and everything they've achieved for Celtic. What do you think about it all?
Incredible. I didn't actually catch that he was going to visit his family. That's a really nice touch. It's incredible when you think over the years how much abuse is maybe a bit, but the critics he's had over the years, even from Celtic fans, and not being good enough to just do what he's done and keep his body the way it is and keep fit. I think I listened to Tony Watt during the week talking about it and just saying how he eats so healthy, he trains, he looks after himself. That's why he's in the position he is. He's quite a shy guy. He doesn't seem very, in the changing room, they'd be quite loud, but he seems very important character in that dressing room. It's just incredible what he's achieved. Absolutely incredible. And we're all desperate for him to get this goal. It's just the games are running out, and you're just praying that he gets that chance. I know he said at his post-match that he had a few chances to shoot and he was trying to get the angle. I really hope he does it, because he really deserves it. He's been an incredible servant to the club, and I can't believe you're doing this to me with a hangover, Tino, talking about Callum McGregor and James Forrest back to back. I'll be greeting soon.
Just compose yourself. Take a minute. We're nearly there. A lot of great comments coming in about James. A lot of folk excited about the prospect of him scoring at Ibrox next week. Don't know if he scored at Ibrox. He's not scored many against Rangers. And folks can tell us for sure. So that would be something Jim Hunter says. Told you that he'll score next week, and I hope Jim's absolutely spot on. And various others. I hope it's not a charity goal. I hope we don't give him a penalty. I don't want to see us go down that road. We're winning 4-0. There you go, James. I want James Forrest to score of his own volition and open play, and I think he will. I think it's quite clear, actually. We've seen it in the last 10 minutes yesterday. The players are aware of his record, and it looks like they're trying to play him in. Idah on a couple of occasions was trying to lay it into his path to get that shot away, and it couldn't quite happen. But he's not scored in 15 consecutive seasons by chance or because people are trying to tee him up just because he's got a record going on. He scored because he's a phenomenal player, a hugely talented player, a guy who surprised a lot, including myself, in terms of how he's evolved as a player over the last season or two. But he's still got a huge part to play, Greg, and it'd be a wise man to bet against him scoring over these remaining games. I
mean, you think about last season, he was instrumental when he came back. He basically dragged Celtic across the finishing line, I would say. I just want him to get his goal. As I say, I know what you're saying. You want him to get it for open play. If it takes a penalty and somebody hand him it 4-0, I'll take that just to get it done. I think he deserves it for what he's done over the years. But yeah, he's been incredible, and hopefully he's still got a big part to play in these remaining games. It'll be interesting to see what role he plays at Ibrox, especially with Jota looking like he's not going to take part in that game now. It'll be interesting if he starts or he comes on and what impact he has. But yeah, incredible servant, Tino.
Yeah, amazing stuff. We're going to move on to the manager. And again, we're going to spend a lot more time on Brendan Rodgers in tomorrow's show. Just a couple of comments. Pat saying that it annoys him that Willie Maley doesn't get mentioned more in these greatest Celtic chats. Of course he does. And of course he's got a huge part in Celtic's history. But we're talking, about the here and now and kind of more recent times. But you're absolutely right. Celtic's first ever manager. I think he was manager, if I've got it right, for 43 years. Something ludicrous from whatever it was, 1897 to 1940. Yeah. And his record, I think, is highlighted by G-Doc, who says Willie Maley's got 30 titles in total, which was 16 leagues and 14 Scottish Cups. Absolutely not to be sniffed at. And Willie Maley will always rightly be well revered in Celtic history, Pat. But the current manager, Brendan Rodgers, so there's lots going on for him right now. He's now won 11 trophies as Celtic manager. He's certainly, in the stat was put up yesterday, he's Celtic's most successful living manager at this moment in time. Absolutely loving life at Celtic. You'll have heard these quotes, Greg. He spoke during the week saying that he'd 150% be back at Celtic next season. He's upped it. He's cranked it up to 200%. He's gone up through the levels. 200% he'll be here at Celtic next season. What's your general take on Brendan Rodgers' achievements second time around?
And I want to know why he's gone up 50% in the space of... I wonder what's happened there. I'm not sure, but I thought his post-match comments yesterday were really interesting, really measured. He took a massive swipe at the media. He took a massive swipe, I think, at some elements of our own support and people within Scottish football yesterday, and basically said, I know what I'm doing. I don't think he's been given the credit that he deserves over the last few years. And I think it's kind of built up to this point. And I thought he was very measured in what he said, but he did not miss. And I liked it. However, I'll caveat that. He's got to take that into next Sunday because he owes us a big performance at Ibrox next week, because we've been woeful in the last few games against them, and I would say Rodgers has to shoulder a fair bit of the responsibility for that. So he's got to back up next Sunday. I don't want to put a negative spin on it. He's an incredible manager, absolutely incredible, and I'll go back to reinforce what I've said. He doesn't get the credit he deserves, and I think that came out in the media this week, and I think that's why he bit back. And I thought his post-match was excellent. He was quite jovial at times with Chris Sutton and stuff, but he was also quite scathing in a very, very clever way, very measured way, very Brendan Rodgers. He thinks what he says, and he's thought that out, and he has not missed some very shoddy journalism during the week.
Yeah, and I've said for a long time, my favourite Brendan is spiky Brendan. That's the one I like. When he comes out, his back's to the wall slightly, and he comes out all guns blazing. And yeah, he's made mistakes, and the poor performances against Rangers of recent, are in that mix somewhere. But I expect him to fully respond. The confidence that must be surging through the players right now. The last three 5-goal performances, it tells its own story. And we're perfectly placed to win against our Rangers, who are in free fall at this moment in time. There's a comment that I'm not mad for. Henrik McLarson saying he's worried about the season after next. Just enjoy the moment. Just enjoy the here and now. Enjoy Celtic being the best team in the country by a country mile. We'll go on to kick on next season, and there's a whole lot that needs to happen for Rangers to come anywhere close to this. You've got to enjoy the moments, Henrik.
Would you rule out, though, after the year after next, what he's saying, Rodgers not still being there?
Potentially Rodgers not being there, but Celtic will continue to grow and continue to evolve.
I think he might still be. I think he might extend his contract.
Well, that's the hope. So Tommy says new contract. He's hoping for that. I think everyone else is as well. Let me see a few other things. Speaking of our own, Miff is 300% sorry. San Fran suggests, because Miff's obviously had his issues with Brendan Rodgers returning. And Tommy as well. Tommy made a huge point yesterday about we seen it, we heard it at the end of the game that the supporters, I think we were already there, but Tommy talks about the support finally falling in love with Brendan Rodgers again. The love and the support for what he's doing is there for all to see. And I don't think anybody in Celtic world would have an issue if he extends for another year or two beyond his current contract.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be an element of the support, like Miff, who can't get fully on board. That's fine. That's your opinion. But I think, yesterday, I think you heard it. The fans are back in love with Brendan again. And as I say, I'm a Utino. I like when he's spiky, Brendan. He's got that wee edge to him. I really like listening to him, and he's very, very clever with his comments. And yeah, I think he's maybe hurting a little bit, just as I said, with the credit that maybe he feels he's not got. Being an egotistical maniac that he is, he wants that credit. But I kind of where I'm at in my head now, he's 200% here next season, which is great. But I think he might extend past that. I'd like to hear his percentage, Colin, where he's going to be the year after next, and see what that percentage is at.
It seems to go up 50% every week or two, so it'll be 450% before you know it.
It'd be better if he went up 55, wouldn't it? That would have been better if he'd gone up 55%, but there you go.
Yeah, he's missed a trick there. But the hope would be, and who knows, the hope would be that Celtic do clinch the treble. And how great would it be if in the aftermath we then announce that Brendan Rodgers has extended? We'll get there soon enough, Greg, but there's lots to enjoy about what Brendan Rodgers is doing right now, lots to be excited about. There's a few goal records that Celtic are targeting, and I need to get clear on the various stats. If anyone in the comments, anyone watching has them up to date, let us know. But we'll come back with the fresh figures on the weekly show. But at the moment,
it's Celtic 102 with 108 to target.
102 in the league at the moment, yeah. So we've scored 102 league goals. We've got 4 goals to go. I thought I heard that 105 was the record in the Invincible season. I might be wrong with that, but it's there or thereabouts. But we'll get that stat clear for the weekly show. But 102 goals scored at this moment in time. There's also an overall record. I think we've scored 146 or something like that. But it's clear that the next 4 league games, quote unquote, don't matter in terms of the bigger picture. They always matter. Everything matters at Celtic. And there's standards to be set and a level to be maintained between now and the cup final on the 24th of May. And whether it's Ibrox next week, Greg, or the games against Hibs, Aberdeen or St Mirren that have yet to come, these players will be so focused and so driven on what remains of this season.
Yeah, I think Rodgers said it last week that he'd set them personal and overall team targets, even for the split fixtures, even though they're kind of dead rubbers, as they say, but they have their own targets. So that's clever. And the team will have their own targets, but also individuals, as you say, chasing goal records and individual stuff. So I think with the shackles almost been off, I think Celtic will really kick on in this, but there's no pressure there. Obviously, next week's never a dead rubber when you play against them. You want to go and win. But I think the other games, Celtic, I don't actually see them losing a game till the end of the season, and hopefully that is capped off by a win in the cup final. That would be my prediction, and I hope it comes to fruition.
Yeah, here's hoping. We had a chat last week on the show. Obviously, yesterday was the first of our 5 post-split fixtures, and someone, apologies, I can't remember who it was, but basically says that they think Celtic can and will go on and win all 5. And, we're only 1 down, but the momentum and everything would point towards that being a serious possibility, because Brendan Rodgers was asked, it was on Celtic TV, Jerry McCulloch asked him, how important is it to have the cup final at the end of the season to keep everyone on their toes? And it's huge, because everyone wants to be part of that. And if you want to down tools slightly at Ibrox next week or at home to Hibs, I think it is, the fixture after, then you'll find yourself out the team as we approach a cup final. And that target, as much as anything, is keeping the players really switched on. But it's Celtic life, isn't it? That's what these players have come to expect. And for guys like Arne Engels, Nicholas Kuhn, Austin Trusty, anyone who finds himself new to Celtic in the last season or two, it won't have taken them long under the leadership of Callum McGregor and Brendan Rodgers to realise just what life at Celtic is all about.
That's exactly it. And I think Rodgers has shown that he can be ruthless and he can bomb a player out for a few games if he feels he's not putting that 100% work rate in. I think kind of seen it with Jota the other week. I was quite surprised he was omitted from the starting lineup for a few games. But certain players, Trusty's another example which you mentioned. If you're not at it, you're not putting that 100% effort in, or your work rate or your standards drop, you're getting dropped from the team. And as you say, the cup final being at the end of the season, everybody wants to play in that game, especially what's at stake, another treble for the club. So yeah, it's keeping everybody in their toes. Everybody want to be sharp. That's why I think we'll be very strong in the closing games of the season.
Yeah, I think so. We'll get to the cup final in due course. We'll get to the Rangers game in due course. We'll have a big build-up to that coming out on Friday. We'll do the countdown to kick-off for that on Friday. Greg, I'll come to you in a second for your final comments. Last word as well. I thought it was important to mention a guy in the shape of Luke McCowan, interviewed after the game, quite literally living the dream. He was at Tannadice 2 seasons ago when Celtic won the league under Ange in 2022, and he was there as a fan on that occasion. He then finds himself on the pitch yesterday. You couldn't take the smile off his face. And Luke McCowan will have been disappointed not to have featured a bit more and maybe kicked on and potentially, picked up his first Scotland cap this season and various different things. But he's doing pretty well. And like others, he may kick on further next season. But that aside, he is living out what everyone listening and watching here, certainly everyone listening and watching from a Celtic persuasion, there might be some lurkers here and there, but everyone of a Celtic persuasion is envious of what Luke McCowan's doing. He's doing what all of us dream about, and it's brilliant to see.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool interview, wasn't it? Like even how he talked about that, how he said, I watched the game over in that stand, and he was kind of almost speechless. I thought, he couldn't really articulate what he was feeling, and I think that shows the magnitude of what he stepped into, and coming from Dundee, massive Celtic fan. So yeah, great day for him. I feel a wee bit sorry for him. I think he came in with a lot of real potential. I think maybe the rotation, his performance against Rangers, I think is maybe setting back it slightly. But again, he's got next season. If he gets a good pre-season under his belt, he goes and competes and he gets minutes towards the end of the season. I like him. I'm a fan, and I thought it was a nice touch, and he looked pretty. He looked very humble yesterday, I would say would be the word, and yeah, great occasion for him and his family.
I think humble's the word that, or an approach that perpetuates throughout this Celtic side. I don't think there's any big shots in there. There's huge talent, and there's ego to an extent, but there's no big shots. There's no one guy who believes he's above the group, and I think that's by design. I think that's, the way that Celtic have built their squad. And as I say, the leadership of Brendan Rodgers as manager and Callum McGregor as captain, that just keeps a really well-balanced and well-grounded group. And Luke McCowan and all his teammates are a huge part of that. Greg, there's lots going on. As I say, there's new records. There's, a 55th title, 4 in a row. There's individual records. There's trebles to still target, to still look forward to. But for the moment, as we close out this one, your final thoughts on the title clincher at Tannadice?
I'll keep it very simple. Look, it's an incredible achievement, another title. It's just incredible. Keep on churning them out. So congratulations to the team, to Brendan Rodgers, and just another great day for us. You just can't take it for granted. We grew up in an era where we were getting absolutely cuffed by Rangers, and nobody complained. Nobody in the media said it was tedious. They thought it was wonderful. Now all of a sudden it's boring to win trebles. So there you go. You can't take it for granted. I know the younger viewers and listeners might. They've just been used to Celtic winning, but we certainly haven't, and I don't forget that. So these days are emotional. It's different being over here in Canada as well. You're kind of looking back and seeing those days, and last Sunday as well, and you're kind of thinking, you'd love to be there. So it was a great day, and just congratulations to Brendan Rodgers and the team, and bring on the Rangers next Sunday.
Yeah, great stuff, and great to hear that you've been able to enjoy it from all the way in Canada. We'll take this separate bit offline, but I need to ask who's getting your cup final ticket, but that's a separate chat between you and I for a...
Well, there is, because I might be back for it.
Oh,
I might be back over.
Breaking news. Now listen, thanks to Greg for joining us here on a Sunday afternoon. Thanks to everyone who's joined us here in the live, and for those who continue to support what we do here at the Celtic Exchange. As mentioned, we'll be back tomorrow, Monday, with the Celtic Exchange Weekly. Remember, it only comes out on a Monday to Celtic Exchange Plus members. There is a link to do so, or to sign up for that, in the show notes. For all others, it will be available on Tuesday. But in the meantime, have a brilliant end to your weekend. As champions, enjoy yourself. We'll see you all again really soon.